Hawk Robinson with the RPG Research Project. That's www.rpgresearch.com. And I figured it was overdue to give everybody an update on where everything is at. Those of you following the website blog are fairly up to date, but I haven't had time even to post everything there, so I thought I'd do a quick video here and bring you up to speed since it's near the end of the year. As of this recording, it's December 29th, 2015, and it has been a whirlwind year with the RPG Research Project and my many related projects. We'll start back a little bit towards the end of November 2014 at Zombie Orpheus Entertainment's ZoeCon II in Seattle. I had the first opportunity to speak to a group there as the audience was gathering about using role-playing games for therapy and education, and introduce people to the RPG Research Project. Zombie Orpheus Entertainment has been, also with Dead Gentleman Productions, making a series of movies related to gamers and gaming since their film school days in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're famous for The Gamers, The Gamers' Hands of Fate, The Gamers' Darkness Rising, Humans and Households, Natural One, Journey Quest, Demon Hunters, and many other web films, and they are very interactive with the gaming community. Some of their films have been funded by Kickstarters and the like, and now through Patreon they do monthly donations and are cranking out regular series and such. So that was in around November 2014 that I had my first chance to speak in front of a large group about the RPG Research Project and the findings and of the many benefits of using role-playing games, and the many programs I've been working on for different special needs populations for autism spectrum, at-risk youth, brain injury, depression, and many other populations, using role-playing games, tabletop, live action, and computer-based, as intervention modalities to achieve therapeutic and educational goals. And this is mostly done from a recreation therapy perspective, though I am interdisciplinary at Eastern Washington University as a student in music therapy, neuroscience, and research psychology, so I tie all of that in together. Fast forward a little bit to April 2015, and I had a chance to speak at the 16th Annual Washington State Therapeutic Recreation Association Conference at Seattle Children's Hospital. That was in April 2015. It was a 90-minute presentation, and it was a smaller room, about 35 people capacity. It was filled to capacity, and I was up against a competing program for programs for children with disabilities, so I was afraid that I would have almost no attendees, but actually the room was as full as it could be, and then the larger Coliseum had their people. So that went very well, and the video for that is available on the youtube.com/RPG Research YouTube channel. And great feedback. A number of people have started programs because of that. They've been calling me regularly, and I've been coaching them through. Some of them have watched my videos on the Spartan Show on how to learn to use, for example, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So, because some of these are recreation therapists who like the idea of using a role-playing game, they have clients that would be appealing to them, but they haven't necessarily done role-playing gaming themselves. And that's a challenge without that background. But some have used the videos. So I was, earlier this year, did a series of 7 episodes on the Spartan Show, which is normally a video game news and talk show that's been around for a number of years through the PlayStation Network and elsewhere, and Twitch. And Mike, the guy who owns the show, runs it, he wanted to run a tabletop game. He had never participated in tabletop role-playing gaming. So we put that together. He had 3 of his regular co-hosts on there, and we put them through learning and making characters from scratch, and we filmed the whole thing. It's 4 hours live broadcast. We did 2 episodes just making the characters, going through all the background, teaching them about the significance of the stats, etc. And then towards the end of the 2nd episode, we were able to start the adventure hook, and then the following 5 episodes were the actual adventure itself. And those are all also on the youtube.com/RPG Research YouTube channel, or on the Spartan Show's channel as well, or you can find it on SpokaneRPG.com and on RPGresearch.com itself. So that's a great introduction, kind of just a walk through step by step, but it's a lot of hours. But if you're trying to get a feel for a specific RPG like Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, you can use it as a tutorial effectively, since none of those guys had played tabletop games before, but they come from video game background. And they were entertaining too. They made it a lot of fun. But there's been some great feedback about I was afraid that watching make characters would be very boring, and actually a lot of people commented they had fun even with that, because the other guys were pretty funny. So some rec therapists have used that to train themselves up, and then they've been trying to implement programs at their facilities in Canada and Washington and potentially elsewhere. And that's an ongoing process that's coming along. And as I hear more back from that, I'll provide more updates. I was at that conference in April 2015. Then I ran Tolkien Moot in July. That's gaming conference and literary conference for fans and scholars of J.R.R. Tolkien and his works, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. I've been running that since 2005. And that during the summer. It's the third weekend of July every year. So that was July. And then in August, prior to August, but leading up to August, WorldCon 73 was actually here in Spokane. This is the 73rd annual World Science Fiction Conference. This is where they hand out the Hugo Awards for science fiction writers. One of the board members, also somebody else in the Spokane Area Gaming Alliance, enticed me and talked me into going to speak on a number of panels, put together a science poster for their Super Science Saturday, and otherwise be involved with WorldCon. I hadn't originally planned to be. And so that went nicely. They spoke on 3 different panels. One of them was basically more a presentation than a panel. It was myself plus the moderator, and then interactive Q&A with the audience. And then the other 2 were more related specifically to gaming, world building, and then the other one was gaming and kind of building your business and getting the word out related to gaming content and such. And I take more of an open source and community-based approach than some others. And so spoke on those panels. And then also had the big 8-foot by 4-foot poster for their Super Science Saturday with a summary of the research so far. All of those you can find on their rpgresearch.com website. The video you can see of the panel is on the YouTube channel as well as on the website. And that went very nicely. Additionally, I was able to continue some research that I'd started in 2013. So those of you who've been following this, my updates since 2005, know that in 2013 I started doing research questionnaires on experiences by gamers of gender bias in the gaming community and gaming industry. And I had 164 respondents, about 25% of which decided to write comments in the back. So I have both quantitative and qualitative information. However, I didn't know about the whole IRB thing. I'm still an undergrad at Eastern at Washington University, and they don't really encourage research for undergrads. This was separate from the university, so it was on my own. I did clear that I'm not in any trouble or anything. The way I formatted out, everything's fine. But there was a peer-reviewed journal that wanted to publish my research, but without the IRB waiver, they couldn't do so. So that's been kind of sitting there by the wayside for now. Fast forward to 2015. Phyllis Ida was kind enough to talk me into, first of all, but also be the sponsor for, she's a PhD at Washington State University, and she went ahead and put herself on as a primary investigator so that we could use the WSU IRB and other resources to resume the research. And then I did the research at WorldCon 73 through August. And I was able to get 125 additional respondents, about 20% of which responded with comments on the back. I finished the data entry for all those questionnaires. It's a lot of work, probably more than 100 man-hours of data entry so far. But I did finish that last week, and now I'm going through and verifying all the data, making certain there aren't any errors and typos and such. Once that is complete, Phyllis has some other people on board who will help with the qualitative assessment while I work on the quantitative assessment. And we do have an IRB waiver, so that means if another peer-reviewed journal is interested in publishing the results, we'll actually be able to produce those papers. So that's exciting. Oh, what else? In the spring and fall of 2015, Vice Media, some of you may be familiar with their HBO division. They do documentaries on HBO. They're also at vice.com. They interviewed me first in the spring and then again this fall because of my research using live-action role-playing and other role-playing games with different populations. They were specifically interested in the autism population, autism spectrum, though I work with many others. And so in October 7th, 2015, they published an article on using live-action role-playing games as a new form of education in Denmark. But then halfway through the article, they start referencing my efforts and tying in the portion of my research that actually applies to using role-playing games for education. Mine's a little more focused on life skills, using civic resources, using the bus, things like that. But they wanted to compare and contrast the different styles and techniques. And so, fortunately, they spend quite a bit of the second half of the article mentioning my research and some of the interview. So that was fortunate. That's on Vice.com. Of course, you can find it also on the RPGresearch.com website if you'd like to read that. And they have a nice video as well of an autism spectrum LARPer here in the States that claims that it saved his life, if you will. How helpful LARPing has been in improving his quality of life and socializing, etc. Also around this time, around September, October, Michael Tresca, who used to be at theexaminer.com and now has gone independent through Patreon, publishes regular articles on gaming and science fiction fandom and other areas. And he released a 3-part interview about me and my research. And you can find that under Michael Tresca and RPG Research, or Michael Tresca and Hawk Robinson. It's also on the RPGresearch.com website if you're interested. It's fairly lengthy, text-based interview. And then not long after that, the hashtag RPGNet Internet Relay Chat Room, which is a chat room for role-playing gamers that they hang out and talk about all things role-playing gaming, decided the admin for that regularly does live Q&A sessions with the chat room people with special guests, and I was a special guest. And so they did a live Q&A, and so that's under RPGNet Q&A. That was useful, and it was nice to get some real-time feedback from people about questions and such. So that's just a few of the highlights. There have been a lot of other things, and if you want to see more detail about that, you can just go to the blog section of the website or the news section of the website and see a quick summary of it's been a very, very busy year. And actually at this point I've had to start turning away some offers because I've promised to keep my out-of-town visits to no more than 4 per year, and if I wasn't limiting it, it would be at least a monthly thing at this point. So a couple of things. I've been mentioning, many of you know, I've been mentioning the wheelchair-friendly RPG trailer. And this started because of my volunteer work in a number of places. I use role-playing games as a volunteer and independent contractor for free for many populations using role-playing games to help them. And many of these people are in wheelchairs. When I was at St. Luke's Rehab here in Spokane, we had a problem with being able to book the space to run either music therapy sessions, one of the things I do, or role-playing game therapy sessions, whether it was tabletop, live action, or computer-based. Because, first of all, getting a room for an hour to seat people, an hour was pretty much the maximum we could get. And also they weren't really allowed to make much noise, so that was problematic. And talking to them, they have a very large parking lot, and I said, well, what if I pulled up with a trailer and we wheeled everybody out in the wheelchairs that needed it out to the trailer and did the sessions there? How would that work? And they thought that was a good idea. So I researched further, and I found out there is a company in Arizona that specializes in building RVs and RV trailers for people in wheelchairs. And I've been going back and forth with the people there and working on a custom-designed 22-foot trailer, toy hauler style, so it has a tailgate in the back, which is a ramp, and at a sufficiently slope to be safe, or I can add-on slopes. But a ramp to bring in people with wheelchairs that can participate. It will seat 5 or 6 people in wheelchairs and up to 10 people without, for tabletop role-playing gaming, computer-based role-playing gaming, and then it's also very useful as a base of operations for any live-action role-playing. It has an awning for hot days, etc. Not only will this make it possible for me to bring these services to facilities that don't have the room, which has become a common theme, Then I'll also be able to take it to many, many rural locations. I hear from people all the time who wish they could game, but because of their disability and the lack of transportation services in rural locations, cannot do so, and they don't really have the population density to easily put a group together. And again, with their disabilities, that can be problematic. And I've been very active online through meetup.com and others. We have over 500 members just in the Spokane area, and finding out all these people who would love to game, but it's just too difficult. So the trailer would also make it affordable and easy for me to come out and host games, literally pull up in front of their house, and they can take a wheelchair just right to there instead of having to try to find transit to some civic facility. A lot of times what I've had to do is run games at hobby stores, libraries, community centers, community colleges, things like that. But that's always a challenge, and there's always a scheduling issue, and it's really hard to get on a regular schedule because it keeps getting bumped by other people, and you can only book so far out. And a lot of them aren't necessarily the most wheelchair-friendly places. Even the community centers sometimes are not. And they can be noisy or hot or cold, etc. And this is a very comfortable setting. So, to build this trailer, I need to get funds for the down payment and transportation costs. I can cover the monthly costs after that. It'll be actually comparable to or less than my current office costs. So I've set up a GoFundMe, gofundme.com/RPG trailer, or you can go to rpgtrailer.com and get lots of photos. I've created mock-ups, computer layouts, the floor plans, etc., and lots of details exactly how this helps. And more recently, as a Christmas gift, thank you very much, Andy, Scott, and Brian, the people from the Two Bards podcast, who are also actors in the Gamers movies and series, Journey Quest, etc., they've done a number of videos talking about why people should donate to the wheelchair-friendly RPG trailer. And I'm going to be releasing those videos in the next day or two, so you can check those out. But please donate today at gofundme.com/RPG trailer. And once I get the funds for the down payment, it's just $6,500 for the down payment and the transportation costs, they'll start building it to order. It'll take about 3 to 6 months for them to finish it because it's literally built from scratch specifically to specifications to meet the needs of the people who would be using this. Then once it's complete, I already have a vehicle that has the towing capacity. I go down, pick it up, and bring it back, and then I'll be able to bring these free services to far more people across the entire North American continent, theoretically. And Ben Dobbins has talked about potentially tying in, and hopefully he can do so. I know he means well, and it can be a challenge, but he's talked about potentially tying in their future episodes in with the RPG trailer and maybe even shooting some scenes in it and potentially campaign with that. Also on the East Coast, the Bodhana group, which does the Save Against Fear convention and uses role-playing games to help treat victims of trauma, they're 501c3, and their board has approved helping donate to this as well by they're having an artist put together like a shoebox with a mock-up of the trailer and where you can put money into it at local gaming stores over on the East Coast, and trying to have the stores compete to raise the most. So that's hopefully happening soon in the next few months. Ben Dobbins and others will be able to tie it in with their campaign. And the people at Savage Worlds Role-Playing Gaming have also talked about potentially doing some articles. They've been doing some emails back and forth talking about the research and why the trailer will be of benefit to so many people. We've talked about the videos, and again, let me just personally thank you so much, Andy Dopieralski, Scott C. Brown, and Brian Lewis, for the wonderful Christmas present you gave of that video. They spend about 9 minutes talking about how role-playing games have been important in their lives and why they think it is important for the RPG trailer to be built and why you should donate. Again, that video will be up shortly, maybe even be up by the time you see this video. And it'll be under youtube.com/RPG Research and on the rpgresearch.com website, and also it'll probably be on the Two Bards, the youtube.com Two Bards podcast channel as well. So I can't thank them enough, and my girlfriend made cookies, and we dropped them off at Andy's front porch day after Christmas, and with a thank you letter and all of that. It was just so nice of them. They also did a video earlier, which I haven't released yet, but I'll go ahead and do. That is humorous, but it could offend some people. So I was a little hesitant professionally, but since we've got something to balance it out, we'll go ahead and get both of those out there. And some people will get a chuckle from that, and don't be too offended if, by the humor. It's a little off color, but I really do appreciate the effort they're making. That's very kind of them. That's enough about the trailer. There's still lots more. So coming up, a number of things. I've talked before about trying to tie in bio and neural monitoring to the research to try to get some more tangibles related to. So we use questionnaires, assessments, etc., to evaluate how people are doing, how they feel about the game, IQ and other tests to get baselines, and then see how they do with problem solving, numerical solving, etc., depression, all these different assessments, and see how they come out the other end after participating in role-playing games if they haven't before. And that's great, and that's great to have that data. But it would also be nice to have, actual neural stuff. Now, neuroimaging's a bit too expensive to get somebody into some sort of PET or functional MRI or something like that while they're role-playing gaming, not to mention awkward and difficult to do. So a nice, between the questionnaires and full brain imaging is bio and neural monitoring. So I've recently got some biofeedback and monitoring equipment, and then I am about to order from the Open EEG project. It's open source based hardware and software from Europe, some neural monitoring and neurofeedback equipment, and hopefully I'll have that in the coming weeks, and I'll be able to see about brainwave states and such during games. Now, for initially, I'll have to just be on myself. Eventually, down the road, hopefully, we'll go through the process for getting multiple units of that, and then doing some formal studies. This is just the early stages of trying to tie in some of the neuroscience with the role-playing game therapy goals. So that's in the works. That's coming along. I've talked about it for years, and now it's finally starting to happen. Upcoming this year, I am speaking this January 29th, 2016, in Portland at the Pacific Northwest American Therapeutic Recreation Association annual conference. And this will basically be a revised and updated and improved version of my conference back at the Seattle Children's Hospital one in April last year. However, last year's was just for the state Recreation Therapy Association. This is now the Northwest chapter of the national one. And hopefully, maybe the following year we can do the national one. We'll see. So I will be providing a 90-minute presentation, and there won't be any competing programs this time. It will be the entire conference that I'll be speaking in front of for this. And that's January 29th, and it's pnwatra.org is the website. And you'll see my time slots listed there. Now, a previous presentation was certified by the American Therapeutic Recreation Association for continuing education units. So ATRA says that after you get your certifications, you still have to attend a certain number of events, education and such, to keep getting your CEU. And even though I'm still an undergraduate, my presentation counted for CEUs, and it is hoped that that will be the same here. We're still waiting for official word on that. Then in May 18th through the 22nd, I'll be attending the Living Games Conference in Austin, Texas. This is thanks to Professor Lynne Bowman and the many people who donated to the Kickstarter. This is their second conference, I believe, called the Living Games. And this is a conference all about live action role-playing. And many of these people are PhDs and such, so there's a heavy scholarly aspect to it, not just fandom. And I have submitted a number of papers, and hopefully I'll get to speak. There's a pre-conference event at the Texas State University, and waiting to hear back on that. And hopefully I'll be able to speak there and or on panels at the main conference. But I'll be there for that 5 to 6 days event in Austin in May. And there's still tickets available, so if you want to check that out, it's livinggamesconference.com. livinggamesconference, all one word, .com. So definitely check that out. And Professor Bowman has been wonderful help in the live action area. That's kind of really her forte, and she travels to Europe all the time and all over talking about the benefits of live action role playing. So she's been an invaluable resource. She and I were on a Google Plus panel a couple of years ago about LARP and therapy, that was really, really nice to interact with her, and she's been very supportive. And she has a book out, The Functions of Role-Playing Games. That's a good book to read. Well worth checking that out. Let's see. So that's coming up right in the next few months. I'm limiting myself to no more than 4 out-of-town conferences and conventions. However, once I get the trailer, that'll be a lot easier to do in many other places to provide services. So keep my fingers crossed that happens sooner rather than later. And finally, there's a list of the programs that I've created. They're now available to check out as prototypes. I have in the blog section, it's under the title Amalgamation of Panels, Q&A, Hangouts, Broadcasts, Interviews, and Presentations on RPG Research Studies on the Effects of RPG and RPG Use for Therapy and Education by Hawk Robinson. I know it's a mouthful. But you'll find that right there on the blog, or you can just type in amalgamation and you'll find it. And this is a list of all of these interviews, presentations, Q&As, papers, all in one place where you can find that easily. Or you can always just go to the documents section right there on the front page. There's documents and then RPG research essays, and you'll find even many more essays there. So hopefully that makes it easy for you to go through. I also have my stuff on academia.edu and researchgate.net. One question for everybody as we wrap up here. Would you be interested in me doing a monthly Google Plus Hangout meeting / updates? Some people have mentioned this a few years ago that I should, and I hadn't really heard enough back, and now that things are picking up, I'm wondering if it would be of value to people. So please comment on this video or on the website and let me know if you would like to see a monthly Google Hangout, and not just this one monologue, an actual interactive where you guys can join in and we can discuss the current research, your research, other people's research, not just my own, and once a month talk about using role-playing games for therapy and education. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I can set it up easily. I already do monthly hangouts through the Tolkien Society that I host here. We do our monthly meetings every month through Google Plus Hangout, so it's very easy for me to do. I already have everything set up, and I can just do it under the RPG Research account. But if there isn't any interest, I'm not going to spend the time. So let me know if you would like to. If we can get at least a dozen or so people posting that they're interested, then I'll go ahead and start scheduling that once a month to do that. Let me know. And finally, also, because I've been supporting these various Patreon groups like Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, Dead Gentlemen, Michael Tresca, etc., and their efforts, it occurred to me that maybe people would be interested in supporting my research more directly. So I've been considering, I do have a Patreon account and have almost everything ready to go except pulling the trigger on it, to let people donate to the research so that as I reach certain funding levels, I will be able to implement certain specific research projects. So for example, I've learned that to get IRB approval as a private researcher rather than through any of the universities, because again, I'm an undergraduate and it gets complicated and you need a PhD and a professor sponsor, etc. You can do it through private organizations. There's at least 3 in Washington State. And one of them, to send a proposal to get IRB paperwork for a waiver or approval, is about $2,600. So per research project, that's kind of a baseline. And then it can go up a little bit from there, but there's a window. It's kind of a set billing thing. And as you've seen on the front of the website, I have a long list of research projects that I want to do, but they need to go through IRB approval. And right now I've been implementing as many research projects as I can that don't require that. But we're getting closer and closer to a point where some of these would be viable. And so if you donated to the monthly Patreon method, it's just a monthly thing. It just takes out whether it's $1, $5, whatever. If enough people do that, it adds up. I have a separate account already set up. As that saves up, then we achieve goals to do specific research projects. And then you get certain benefits and such for doing that, for helping donate. I don't know if it's something there's enough people interested in donating that's even viable. But if that's something you would be interested in donating, please let me know. I think right now the biggest emphasis would be on the trailer, because that'll make the research easier to do. It'll make everything more affordable. So if you had to choose between one or the other, please donate to the trailer. But let me know what you think of if you would be interested in donating to a monthly thing, so that I would start doing regular broadcasts. You'll see again that there'll be a whole series of benefits. Let me know if that's interesting you or not. So I think that's going to be it for now. We'll wrap it up. I wish everybody out there happy holidays and a happy new year. I hope your 2016 will be fantastic. Looks like things over here on the RPG research side are just really taking off wonderfully. Thank you so much to everybody for all your wonderful support and kind words, all the help, all the sharing of others in the community. I'm very much an open source based person, so I really like the community sharing of information. I don't believe in the hoarding and hiding of the data. I think we all benefit, especially in science, when we share our data and our opinions and do that whole peer review thing and take out the commercialism and the other issues and just really look at it for the science of it to really help people. And again, I try to take the science and apply it directly to a therapy. It's great to do the abstract stuff, but being both a computer science background and an engineer, I like both the abstract and then how I can apply it to the real world to really help people. And the community has been great. Jack Birkenstock of the Bodana Group, a little bit of dialogue with the Wheelhouse Workshop in Seattle, Ben Dobbins of Zombie Orpheus, Don Early of Dead Gentlemen, of course Scott Brown and Andy Dobrowski and Brian Lewis, and so many others of you out there. Thank you so much. Professor Bowman, all of you, thank you so much for all the help and getting the word out and help others. So again, it's rpgresearch.com, and then donate now to the wheelchair-friendly RPG trailer at gofundme.com/RPG trailer. Wherever you may be well, namaste, and happy gaming, happy New Year.